A phone goes dark at exactly 9:09 in the morning. Not a dead battery, not a dead zone. It simply stops transmitting. Hours earlier, one of Germany's richest men had arrived in the Swiss Alps to train for one of the world's most dangerous ski races. Minutes later, he was gone. No trace, no witness, no warning. 3 years on, his own brother would swear under oath that he still didn't know if the man was alive or dead. Then, photographs surfaced from Moscow. If they really showed Karl-Erivan Haub, this wasn't simply a mountain tragedy. It was one of Europe's strangest disappearances. April 7, 2018, 9:09 in the morning. A cable car reaches the summit of the Matterhorn. The doors open. One man steps out. Karl-Erivan Haub's phone sends its final signal. Then, nothing. No calls, no messages, no location pings. For days, search teams comb the mountain. Helicopters sweep the slopes. Rescue crews push into terrain that has swallowed far more experienced climbers. They come back with nothing. No skis, no clothing, no gear. Not one piece of physical evidence that an accident ever happened. Investigators reach the only conclusion the facts seem to allow. The billionaire died on the mountain. Case closed. But almost immediately, the story starts to crack, because the way Karl-Erivan Haub lived his life lines up with almost nothing about the way investigators say he died. No yacht, no tabloid affairs, no magazine spreads. In one of the rare interviews he ever gave, Karl-Erivan Haub called himself ordinary, just a family man, a €4 billion family man, who trained alone, in terrain that kills experienced climbers, without telling anyone his route, without protection, with a phone that stopped broadcasting at the worst possible moment. The former commander of that very race says it plainly: you do not go into that terrain alone before the start. Not a guideline, an unwritten law of the mountain. Haub broke it, on the one morning it mattered most. And the search that followed, one of the largest mountain rescue operations in Swiss history, comes back empty. No glove, no ski pole, no fabric snagged on rock. Hold on to that. It's about to feel a lot less like an accident. Rewind 24 hours, April 6th, 5 in the afternoon. Zermatt train station. Surveillance cameras catch Haub arriving alone. He checks into his usual hotel by 6 that evening, disappears into his room, starts making calls that run until nearly midnight. Here's the flag that should have gone up. It didn't, not for years. Both numbers he dials that night connect to the same person, a young woman in St. Petersburg, Russia. Her name is Veronica, a German billionaire, alone and unprotected, in one of the most remote stretches of the Alps. His last known contact before going dark, a woman in Russia, nobody in his orbit has ever heard of. One more thing. His company runs a retail operation across Eastern Europe, one Haub personally shields again and again from internal audits. By morning, he's gone. For 3 years, the official story never wavers. Tragic accident, case closed. It wasn't closed. It wasn't even close. This is where it stops being a missing person story. Karl-Erivan has a younger brother, Christian. Their relationship isn't quietly tense. It's openly hostile. Years of power struggles, years of resentment. One veteran journalist with 2 decades covering German business dynasties says she's never seen bitterness like it, inside a family controlling this much money. When Karl-Erivan vanishes, Christian has 2 legal paths in front of him. Path 1, get his brother declared legally dead. Slow under German law, but once it's final, Karl's wife and children inherit the shares, and Christian can buy them out. Path 2, prove Karl disappeared on purpose. Under the company's own legal structure, that's a breach of duty, serious enough to strip him of his shares entirely. No payout required. Christian chooses Path 1. 2021. Karl-Erivan Haub is officially declared dead. His widow sells his shares to Christian for €1.7 billion. Christian Haub becomes controlling shareholder of one of Germany's most powerful retail empires. That same month, he signs a sworn legal declaration. No credible evidence his brother is still alive. Under oath. Keep that close. What happens next makes the signature look very different. Around the time Christian signs that declaration, A USB drive lands on the desk of a German investigative journalist, sent from someone inside Christian's own circle. On it, internal company files, investigation records, documents the leak claims trace back to Russian security services tracking Karl-Erivan's financial movements inside Russia. Who he met, where the money flowed, how much never came back out. Also on it, parallel travel records. Karl flying to Moscow, to St. Petersburg, to Omsk. And in those exact windows, Veronica flying the same routes. According to those leaked files, Veronica has alleged ties to Russian intelligence. The claim is never independently confirmed. She has never been publicly charged with anything. A German billionaire, a woman with alleged intelligence ties, according to leaked files. Money moving through a division nobody is allowed to audit. A disappearance timed perfectly, with zero physical trace in the snow. The case draws attention from foreign intelligence services. But exactly who and how far the inquiry goes is never fully confirmed publicly. Then, silence. No public findings. No charges. Not yet. One security expert puts it simply: when a case carries this much geopolitical weight, the bar for going public rises sharply. Not because nothing's happening behind the scenes, because some things are easier left unsaid. Then, the photographs surface. Early 2021, Moscow. Someone, exactly how is still unconfirmed, pulls images from the city's facial recognition network, one of the most extensive biometric surveillance systems on Earth. Tens of thousands of cameras, one central database. From inside it, a man entering an apartment building on Kolomenskoye Street. Winter coat, Moscow cold, grainy, but striking in what it appears to show. The journalist has already seen these images months before the public does, allowed to view them twice under conditions she calls among the tensest of her career. She memorizes every detail. She understands exactly what her source has risked. Then one morning she unlocks her phone, and the photos are everywhere. Why then? Why that exact moment? She still doesn't have an answer. In a story like this, nothing arrives by accident. Here's what matters. The photos are not proof. They're evidence, disputed evidence. Outside analysts who examine the images land on wildly different conclusions, match probabilities ranging from as low as roughly 50% up toward the high 90s, depending on the method and the analyst. Prosecutors argue the images were significant enough that they should have been disclosed back in 2021. Christian Haub's defense maintains he didn't recognize his brother in them at all and calls them unreliable with no confirmed metadata. Even the location match, construction cranes, skyline, only proves the city, not the man. Moscow, winter. Years after Haub was already declared dead in the Swiss Alps. What the photos actually prove remains a live legal question, not a settled fact. Nobody who chased this story walks away clean. Two private investigators connected to the wider case later die. What's documented publicly is thin. They were working threads related to the disappearance. Then, they weren't alive. No public evidence ties their deaths to Haub. No findings connect the two. It's a detail that unsettles people covering the story, not a confirmed conspiracy. The journalist gets an anonymous call, a calm voice, every communication monitored for months. Be careful. She keeps going anyway. She flies to Moscow, finds Veronica's listed address, an apartment building, a car registered in her name that doesn't match the lifestyle of someone earning under €1,000 a month, a security desk at the entrance. She's turned away without explanation. There's a third Haub brother, Georg, the middle child. Media reports raise questions about contacts linked to Russian organized crime circles. No charges filed, no findings made public. Money, lawyers, and connections have a way of making official curiosity quietly evaporate. For years, this mystery lives in leaked files, unanswered questions, speculation. Then, in May of 2026, German prosecutors formally charge Christian Haub. The allegation? A false sworn declaration filed the moment his brother was declared legally dead. Christian Haub denies it. The court hasn't resolved the case. Judges in Cologne are still deciding whether there's enough evidence for the charges to reach trial. But if prosecutors prove Karl-Erivan Haub was alive when that declaration was signed, The consequences reach far beyond one sworn statement. They could reopen who actually controls the family business. Until then, the presumption of innocence stands. And the question underneath all of it, whether Karl-Erivan Haub is alive at all, still has no answer. 8 years after Karl-Erivan Haub vanished into the Swiss Alps, no one can say with certainty whether he died on the mountain or quietly disappeared into a second life. The mystery remains unresolved.